Shocking! The Royal Rumble mystery man unmasked himself on Smackdown. The mystery is over, and WWE just pulled off the greatest swerve in modern wrestling history, except it wasn't WWE who controlled the narrative. The mystery man unmasked himself on Smackdown, completely hijacking the show, and what he said in that ring is going to send shockwaves through the entire industry. This wasn't a scripted reveal. This wasn't creative's plan. And Triple H is absolutely losing his mind backstage because someone just exposed that WWE has been lying to us for months. Because here's what nobody is telling you: the mystery man's identity isn't the shocking part. It's why he did what he did, who he's working with, and the nuclear bomb he just dropped about WrestleMania 42 that is WWE in full damage control mode right now. Friday Night SmackDown was supposed to be business as usual. A follow-up to the Royal Rumble chaos, some championship matches, the typical road to WrestleMania storyline development. Instead, we got the most unhinged, off-script moment in WWE television history since the pipe bomb, and I'm not using that comparison lightly. 15 minutes into the broadcast, the mystery man's music hit. Not during a planned segment. Not during a match. The music just interrupted everything. Production was clearly scrambling. You could see it in the camera work, hear it in commentaries' confused reactions. Michael Cole wasn't selling shock, he was genuinely shocked. Corey Graves went silent for a solid 10 seconds, which never happens. The mystery man walked out, and the crowd in the arena went absolutely ballistic. But here's where it gets insane: he was already taking off the mask as he walked down the ramp. No dramatic pause. No waiting for the ring. He ripped that mask off himself, threw it into the crowd, grabbed a microphone from a terrified ring announcer, and dropped the most devastating promo WWE has tried to cut from every replay since. The mystery man? Samoa Joe. And before you say that's not that shocking, let me tell you what he said that has WWE's legal team working overtime and has wrestling Twitter in an absolute meltdown. Samoa Joe stood in that ring and told the entire world that he was never supposed to unmask himself tonight. That WWE had a plan to drag this mystery out until WrestleMania, to use him as a prop in someone else's storyline, to waste months of his career playing hide-and-seek while younger, less talented wrestlers got the spotlight he's been denied his entire WWE tenure. He said, and I'm paraphrasing because WWE has scrubbed most of this from official uploads, that he came back to WWE with promises. Promises of a main event run. Promises of a world championship program. Promises that if he played the long game, stayed healthy, and did what creative asked, he'd finally get the respect and positioning he deserves. Instead, they put him in a mask and told him to attack people to build someone else's WrestleMania moment. They told him his job was to make other wrestlers look good, to be the mysterious threat that gets conquered by the company's chosen favorites. And Samoa Joe decided that if WWE wouldn't give him his moment, he'd take it. The crowd was electric, chanting Joe, 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 so loud that it was drowning out everything else. And Joe kept going. He called out Triple H by name. He called out the entire creative process. He said that WWE has a fundamental problem: they sign the best wrestlers in the world and then systematically waste them because those wrestlers don't fit the corporate image of what a WWE superstar should look like. Then Samoa Joe started naming names, and this is where WWE's control of the situation completely collapsed. He brought up Shinsuke Nakamura, multiple-time world champion in Japan, reduced to a mid-card comedy act in WWE. He brought up Cesaro, one of the most talented in-ring performers of a generation, never given a proper world title run. He brought up Keith Lee, explosive, charismatic, over with crowds, buried and eventually released. And he didn't stop there. Joe said that right now, in 2026, there are 10 wrestlers in that locker room who are more talented, more deserving, and more over with actual wrestling fans than the people WWE keeps forcing into WrestleMania main events. But those 10 wrestlers will never get that opportunity because they didn't come from nil programs, they're not former football players, they're not celebrities with built-in social media followings. The implications are massive. Samoa Joe just articulated what hardcore wrestling fans have been saying for years, but WWE has always dismissed as internet smart complaining. Except Joe isn't a fan on Twitter, he's a main event caliber performer saying this on WWE's own television program. Security started surrounding the ring around the 6-minute mark of this promo. You could see Triple H barking orders through the curtain. But here's the thing, the crowd was so firmly on Joe's side that WWE couldn't just cut to commercial. They couldn't forcibly remove him without creating an even worse optics situation. So they had to let him finish. And that's when Samoa Joe dropped the nuclear bomb that has the entire wrestling industry reeling. He revealed that the original WrestleMania 42 main event, the one WWE has been building toward, the one that all the rumors and speculation have centered around, was changed 3 weeks ago. Not for storyline reasons. Not for creative reasons. For sponsor reasons. According to Joe, WWE's corporate sponsors wanted a more marketable main event. They wanted star power that translates to mainstream media coverage. They wanted social media buzz from demographics that don't traditionally watch wrestling. So WWE scrapped months of storytelling and pivoted to a main event built around celebrity crossover appeal rather than wrestling credibility. Joe didn't name the specific match, probably for legal reasons, but wrestling insiders are losing their minds trying to figure out which program got killed and which celebrity involvement got prioritized. Was it the rumored Cody Rhodes vs. Seth Rollins dream match? Was it Gunther's World Championship program? The speculation is absolutely rampant. But here's what makes this so devastating: if what Joe is saying is true, it means WWE is openly admitting that wrestling ability, fan investment, and storytelling quality are secondary to whatever generates the most mainstream press coverage. It confirms every cynical thing critics have said about WWE's priorities. WWE tried multiple tactics to regain control of the narrative. First, they sent out Adam Pearce, the on-screen authority figure, to try to remove Joe from the ring. The crowd booed Pearce so loudly that he couldn't even get his words out. He retreated backstage looking absolutely humiliated. Then they tried cutting Joe's microphone, but Joe just yelled. The entire arena could still hear him. He told the crowd that WWE cutting his mic proved everything he was saying was true, that the company can't handle transparency, can't handle wrestlers having agency, can't handle anything that doesn't fit their carefully controlled corporate narrative. Finally, they sent out security, not storyline security, but actual WWE security personnel who don't typically appear on camera. And Joe went willingly. But as he was being escorted out, he kept yelling that he's not done, that this is just the beginning, and that other wrestlers are going to start speaking out because he just broke the seal on honest conversations about WWE's treatment of talent. The crowd gave Samoa Joe a standing ovation as he was removed from the building. Chants of "Thank you, Joe" echoed through the arena. And WWE had to just cut to commercial and pretend like their entire show hadn't just been hijacked by one of their own performers. Reports from Backstage are absolutely chaotic. Multiple sources are confirming that Triple H was furious, not the character Furious, but legitimately angry that Joe went off script to that degree. There are conflicting reports about whether Joe is suspended, fired, or if WWE is trying to figure out how to spin this into a storyline after the fact. But here's where it gets complicated: the locker room is split. Half the roster is reportedly terrified that Joe just committed career suicide and that WWE is going to make an example of him. But the other half? They're energized. They're saying privately that Joe did what they've all wanted to do, that he said what they've all been thinking, and that maybe this creates an opening for real change in how WWE treats its performers. Veterans are reportedly cautiously supportive. They've been through enough WWE regime changes to know that public complaints usually end badly for the complainer, but they also recognize that the business has changed. Wrestlers have more options now. AEW exists, international promotions are viable, independent wrestling is thriving. WWE doesn't have the same absolute monopoly on top-tier talent that it had 10 years ago. Younger wrestlers are scared. They don't have the credibility or the name value to survive being on WWE's bad side. They need the company more than the company needs them, and they're worried that Joe's rebellion is going to create a culture of paranoia where WWE management starts viewing everyone as a potential troublemaker. Twitter crashed. Legitimately crashed for about 15 minutes after Samoa Joe's unmasking. The trending topics were dominated by variations of Joe's name, WWE, and WrestleMania. Wrestling journalists are scrambling to verify Joe's claims. Former WWE wrestlers are subtweeting their support without being explicit enough to burn bridges. Fans are absolutely divided. One camp is celebrating Joe as a hero who spoke truth to power. They're making him out to be a working-class warrior fighting against corporate greed and creative bankruptcy. The other camp is calling him unprofessional, saying he violated the trust WWE placed in him, arguing that airing internal grievances publicly hurts the entire industry. And that division is exactly what makes this moment so powerful and so controversial. There's no clear right or wrong answer here. Samoa Joe violated the implicit contract between performer and promotion. You don't shoot on live television, you don't break kayfabe to air legitimate grievances, you handle disputes privately. But he did it because the private channels weren't working, because his career was being wasted, because he felt like he had nothing left to lose. This isn't just about Samoa Joe or WWE. This moment represents a fundamental tension in modern professional wrestling, the conflict between wrestling as sport/art versus wrestling as corporate entertainment product. Joe's unmasking represents the performer's perspective that quality, credibility, and fan connection should matter most. WWE's response, whatever it ends up being, will represent the corporate perspective that marketability, brand partnerships, and mainstream appeal drive decision-making. Other promotions are watching this situation intensely. If WWE punishes Joe severely, it sends a message that the company hasn't really changed despite all the talk about talent empowerment. If WWE finds a way to work with Joe or turn this into a storyline, it could signal a new era of collaboration between creative and performers. AEW is reportedly very interested in the situation. If WWE releases Joe over this, he immediately becomes the biggest free agent in wrestling, and his stock has never been higher. The promo he cut on SmackDown would be played on a loop in every AEW promotional package. He'd be positioned as the wrestler who stood up to WWE and won his freedom. Who else knew Joe was going to do this? Did he tell anyone? Or did he keep this completely to himself to avoid anyone getting blamed? Are there other wrestlers planning similar statements? Is this the beginning of a larger movement within WWE's locker room? And most importantly, what does WWE do now? They can't just ignore this. The promo is all over social media. Mainstream sports outlets are covering it. They have to respond in some way. Do they punish Joe and risk making him a martyr? Do they try to work it into a storyline and risk looking like they're being held hostage by their own talent? Do they release him and risk him becoming AEW's biggest acquisition of 2026? The Royal Rumble mystery man unmasked himself on SmackDown, and in doing so, Samoa Joe pulled back the curtain on WWE's internal politics in a way that can't be undone. This wasn't a work. This wasn't clever creative. This was a wrestler who decided his voice mattered more than his job security, and he used WWE's own platform to deliver a message that the company desperately didn't want delivered. What's your take? Is Samoa Joe a hero or a villain? Did he speak truth to power, or did he burn his career for nothing? Drop your comments below because the wrestling world is divided on this, and your voice matters in this conversation. If this video gave you insight you won't find anywhere else, smash the like button and share this everywhere. Subscribe to Wrestling News CC because this story is evolving by the hour, and we'll be covering every single development. The mystery man has been unmasked, but the real mystery is what happens next in this absolute chaos.